Mr. Toastmasters, members and guests, in tonight's speech I'm going to discuss Australia's interest rate policy and its flaws. As of June 2023, Australia had 12 interest rate rises in 13 months, and the cash rate went from 0.1% in September 2022 to 4.1% in June 2023. Then on the 7th of November 2023, the RBA increased the cash rate by a further 0.25%, and it's now 4.35%. Now in tonight's speech I'm going to give you some basic theories of supply and demand, price increases, and the use of interest rates as an economic management tool. Now price is set by supply and demand. First I'll discuss demand side price increases, then I'll discuss supply side increases. Now increases in price are inflation, are called inflation. Now it's not the level of the price which is inflation, it is the percent increase in the price which is inflation. So demand can determine price. Just say we've got 10 people, 10 apples, everybody wants one apple, and apples are 50 cents. Now all of a sudden if everybody wants 2 apples, then the demand for apples go up, there aren't enough apples for everyone, and shelves become empty. Now some people are prepared to pay more money for apples than others. Now in response to shelves emptying quickly, shops put up the price of apples, and fewer people who are prepared to pay more for apples buy them. As price increases, the profit from supplying apples goes up, and eventually the supply of apples will go up, and a new equilibrium is reached between supply and demand, but at a higher price than the previous equilibrium level. Now increases in price due to increases in demand are called demand side causes of inflation. Now supply can also influence price. Both the level of supply and the cost of supply can influence price. Just say the level of supply of apples drops to 5 apples. Then again there aren't enough apples for everyone, and fewer people who are prepared to pay more for apples buy them. A new equilibrium level is reached between supply and demand, where price increases until supply and demand again become equal. Now if the cost of supplying apples goes up, it becomes more expensive to supply apples, and also the price of apples will go up. Now increases in supply side factors are called supply side causes of inflation. The next thing I'll discuss is disposable income. I'll discuss its relevance to demand side economics, and I'll say a little bit more about supply side causes of inflation. Now disposable income is the amount of money that people have to spend in society. Now disposable income in society can influence inflation. If disposable income goes up, then people have more money to spend, demand goes up, and the price of apples will go up. Now there are 2 main theories on how to reduce disposable income, and these are fiscal theory and monetary theory. Now these 2 theories come from ISM modelling, which is the basic tenet on economic theory on how economic policy tools affect supply and demand. Now fiscal theory, amongst other things, postulates an increase in tax to reduce disposable income, whereas monetary policy postulates an increase in interest rates to reduce demand. Now we are currently using monetary policy and interest rates to attack inflation. Now before discussing how higher interest rates reduce disposable income, there are 2 types of spending that need to be considered. There's discretionary spending and spending on necessities. Now, discretionary spending is spending on non-essential items like flowers, gym memberships, movies, eating out and holidays. Whereas spending on necessities are spendings on the must-have basics of life. Now, the RBA itself admits that higher interest rates and monetary policy is a blunt instrument, meaning that it does not just affect discretionary spending, but affects spending in total, even on necessities. Food relief agencies are saying that 3.7 million Australians are finding it hard to put food on the table. Now, interest rates are showing a clear sign that they're having an effect on spending, as spending in July 2023 was down 11% on July 2022. Now, Australia's interest rate policy is flawed. Focusing on higher interest rates focuses on reducing demand, which solves demand-side causes of inflation. But if you have a look at the Consumer Price Index for September 2023, you'll see that the bulk of the 5.4% price increase all came from supply-side factors. The price of utilities, including electricity, water and gas, went up 12.6% annually, rents went up 7.6% annually, and automotive fuels went up 7.9% annually. So when price increases are due to the cost of supply, focusing on demand is not the solution. Again, both the cost of supply and the level of supply can be the causes of inflation. Now, as said, the cost of supply can be the cause of inflation. Just say shops put up the price of apples to $1 due to increased water costs through lack of rain, then reducing demand will not reduce the additional cost of supplying the apples. The same way that reductions in disposable income will not reduce petrol price increases. Now, for price increases on the cost of supply, the supply side component of the price increase is a thing in itself and will not reduce when demand reduces. Now, examples in society of price increases on commodities with the cost of supply are petrol, electricity and household insurance. Now, petrol prices have gone up due to the Ukraine war. Electricity prices have gone up 20 to 30% over the last 2 years and are forecast to go up a further 25% in July. And this is a feature of a privatised electricity market. Household insurance has gone up through increased building cost and an increase in propensity of extreme weather events. Now, as I said before, the level of supply can also create inflation. Just say there's a lack of supply due to bad weather and fewer crops, then price will go up as supply is less than demand. Now, although it's true that higher prices will reduce disposable income, which will reduce demand and will put a downward pressure on price, if goods are a necessity, there will be some base level of demand that demand will not fall below. For price increases on the level of supply of goods which are a commodity, reducing demand will not totally eradicate the cost increases. For products with a lack of supply, although it's true that higher interest rates will reduce demand and reduce disposable income, shortages in supply will still maintain high price level. The same way that shortages in the supply of houses are still going to maintain higher house prices. Now, as I mentioned, petrol, electricity, gas, rents and mortgages over the past 18 months are the major causes of inflation. Now, these goods are all necessities, and they are not purchased from discretionary spending. but need to be purchased even when income reduces. Now it's said that this is called that their demand is inelastic. Now this will also help to keep prices high. So therefore, when the percentage increase in price slows, now the percentage increase in price is inflation, so even when inflation slows, you can expect that prices are going to remain high for a considerable period. Now before the interest rate hikes, increases in the cost of living had reduced disposable income and put a downward pressure on price. But prices in many sectors had not fallen. Then this should signal to the RBA that demand was not the cause of inflation. Now the RBA reckons that the price of hairdressers, dentists, eating out, sporting and other recreational activities are all increasing sharply, and these price increases are homegrown and demand driven, and that they're going to increase interest rates if they need to combat them. Now I believe that businesses are just trying to recoup higher costs. I dispute that the recent price increases are due to demand, but are a flow-on effect of supply-side causes of inflation. They are the lagged effect of businesses trying to recoup higher costs over the past 18 months. Now the RBA has previously said that if petrol prices go up, that it's going to increase interest rates. Now this shows that they're not distinguishing between demand side and supply side causes of inflation, because petrol price increases are a supply side cause of inflation. In addition, the RBA are putting businesses on a roulette table. Businesses have to face a higher cost to go out of business, but they now also have to face reduced revenue or go out of business. Now businesses are claiming that they're receiving 25% less revenue. Now although higher interest rates are good at reducing disposable income, they unleash recessionary forces. Now we have to be careful in the current environment, because China's going into a recession. Now 1/3 of everything we sell goes to China. Now if what we sell to China slows, economic activity slows, and this unleashes recessionary forces. Now high interest rates at home also unleash recessionary forces. So the economy can be hit by a double whammy and can go into a recession. Now this finishes the basic part of the speech where I talk about the basic theories and the basic relationship between interest rates and inflation. Next I'll discuss the impacts of high interest rate policies. Now high interest rate policy has its own negative consequences which need to be considered. High interest rates fall on a select sector of society. They fall on people with houses with mortgages or those who rent. They do not fall on people who own their house outright. Now people who rent or have mortgages are in a stage of life where they have high setup costs and often have children to bring up. Now a large proportion of their income is spent on basic household appliances, low-cost consumables, and bringing up the children. So now the negative effects of the policy, of high interest rate policies, are not spread evenly, but those people with mortgages and rents are crucified. Now as of July and August 2023, the following statistics apply to rents and mortgages. I'll just read out the way. So this is the impacts on mortgages and rents as of July and August 2023. The total interest costs of home loans was 16 billion last year and has jumped to 28 billion this year. The average variable owner-occupier mortgage rate has risen from 2.86% in May 2022 to 6.86% in June 2023. Mortgage repayments are at a historical peak of 9.4% of household disposable income. Between 2019 and 2023, mortgage repayments have jumped from 24% of income in 2019 to 44% of income in 2023. Now, 40% of homeowners are struggling to meet their repayments. Over the past year, rents in Australia have generally gone up to $500 per week or more, and the average mortgage is now $600,000 or more. Now, the impacts of monetary policy are not spread evenly amongst businesses. Those businesses more heavily dependent on purchases of basic commodities are more heavily affected. And let's call a spade a spade. Higher interest rates are effectively a tax. Let's call it the interest rate tax. Higher interest rates are a tax on mortgage holders, with proceeds going directly to banks. Now the revenue from these interest rate rises go into bank profits, with banks not generating these profits themselves. Now banks do not deserve to have these profits, and the money could be taken and could be used to build houses. Now if we're going to have a tax in any form, why not have a tax which is spread evenly amongst society, which reduces disposable income and reduces demand as the RBA desires? Now, a direct tax spread evenly amongst society is a fiscal theory type of tax, but this takes away the issue of having to take proceeds from banks for public spending and to spend on houses. This finishes the first half of my speech, and I'll see you after supper for the second half of my speech. Thank you very much.